All right, I'd like to call to order the Village of Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Board for Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Chris Circle.
Here.
Tracy Kluge.
Here.
Dean Hess.
Here.
Heidi Murphy.
Here.
Mark Castonian.
Here.
Donovan Miller.
Here.
Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please keep in mind our brave men and women that are here and abroad that are helping keep peace and order in the world. All right, action on the agenda. I do have one request or one change. We want to move C and D, correct? No, B and C.
C and
No,
D.
C and D.
Flip-flop.
Flip-flop C and D.
Move to approve with the changes to C and D.
Second.
Excuse me. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action on the minutes from July 18, 2023.
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public. Must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state name and address. Limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personal issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. So anybody, comments from the public? Nobody in the house, nobody on the interweb, maybe somebody's there. Comments from the public? All right, we'll move on. Written communications. I think we've got a couple here. One is addressed to Rex. It's from the Wisconsin Humane Society. Excuse me. Dear Rex, on behalf of the animals of the Wisconsin Humane Society, thank you for your support collecting donations at the fruit truck rallies. It ensures that WHS events are successful, and more importantly, donation means we can be there when animals in our community need us. Your generosity is vital to these efforts. So again, thank you for your support, and that's from the Wisconsin Humane Society. And then we've got another one. Somebody wanted to pass along. They wanted to share, let's see, what was this from? From David, our recreation program supervisor. He was emailed, not sure if you're the right person I contacted us, but wanted to say the coach for the tennis program at Pioneer Tennis Courts this summer is just absolutely amazing. She does a great job teaching the kids, allowing them to have fun and learn at a pace they need individually, along with making sure they are safe and well taken care of. Diane Gino. So that's nice to hear.
Rex, who was the coach for the, or who was the tennis teacher? It'd be nice to give her a public thank you, so.
Yeah, her name escapes me right now.
Okay.
David's the one that works with her more directly than I do. But a lot of good things about her.
All right, action items, 8A, consider, discuss, act on a request for Eagle Project in the community garden. Rex?
All right, this is the first of 2 scout presentations that we're going to have tonight. I'd like to call Sadie Huss up to the table to sit with me here. Sadie's going to talk about an Eagle Scout project that she is proposing to do in the community garden. Sadie.
Just speak about what I want to do.
Yep, just talk about what you want to do and what your proposal is.
Okay, so I want to build 2 raised beds at the community garden. They would be the size of 12 feet by 4 feet by 2.5 feet high. They would be the same height as the other raised beds at the garden. They would be filled with about a yard of compost and 3 1/4 yards of just regular dirt. I would like to try and finish this project this year for it to be rented next year. by the people. And
So Sadie and I have sat down, we've talked about the project. The raised beds in our community garden are some of our most popular plots. There's always a need for them because, you know, if you're a gardener, as you get older,
Rex.
your back tends to maybe start to get
Rex,
a little
Can
sore.
you speak into the mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
Your back starts to get a little sore, and the beds are just very popular with people that have some little mobility issues and whose joints don't work as like they used to back in the day. So the beds are real popular. We've got 2 smaller beds and then a very large one, which was done as another Eagle Scout project a number of years ago, and Sadie's proposing to do a couple more boxes. And we have plot number 2 available on the map. If you take a look on your agenda packet, plot number 2 is where those would be. Plot number 1 already has the large bed in it, and so plot number 2 would be right next door. It's a gravel pathway, so it is accessible. And I told her that I thought it would be a great idea, and she's kind of given us a design and some dimensions, and staff recommendation is to move forward with it unless there's further questions. Then Sadie is here to answer them.
Sadie, what kind of material is going to be used in the building of that raised bed?
so the outsides are going to be just with regular wood, and then we're going to be using screws just to hold it all in. And then in all the corners, so every 3 feet, we're going to be putting 4x4s to reinforce it all staying together.
Okay, and you said it was going to be treated wood?
No,
Okay.
Sadie, I know you said, but when are you anticipating getting this done? Is it for next year, did you say?
I'm going to try to finish it this year before the snow falls.
Okay.
So that it can be rented out by next spring.
Next year. Thank you.
Who's helping you with this project, Sadie?
So I'm going to be the one that's running it, and then the people that are helping me are going to be the people in my crew, which is 9113, which is based out of Ashwaubenon here, and then 4 people in my troop, which is 1693, which is based out of Swamico.
Okay. And you said it's not going to be treated wood, or you're not sure?
I'm not very sure yet.
Okay. I guess maybe it is treated wood, but yeah, okay, good. Anything else for
Do
Sadie?
you finance the project as well then?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve Sadie putting in 2 more community gardens for us, and thank you for doing that.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nobody better be opposed. Is there anybody opposed? No? Okay. Motion carries.
Thanks, Sadie.
Thank you, Sadie. Thanks for doing that. All right. 8B, consider, discuss, act on a request by Girl Scout Troop 4230 to install free little library at Klipstine Park. Rex?
So I have had several meetings with Valerie Hogue, who's the troop leader for Troop 4230. And the last meeting, we had several girls also in attendance. They talked about the project a little bit, why they thought it was necessary. You can grab some chairs, ladies, and you can sit down up front, that's fine. So we had a good meeting. We went out to the front of the community center or off to the side and kind of picked a site that we thought may be appropriate for a free little library. And they wanted to proceed with it, so I said that it would be appropriate to bring this to the park board to make a presentation. So ladies, you are up. You can kind of talk into the microphone there and just maybe say your names. And once everyone has their names stated, just tell a little bit about what you want to do and how you're going to do it.
I'm Elodie. This is Peyton. and Hannah, and we are members of the Girl Scout Troop 4230 here in Ashwaubenon. We have teamed up together to earn the Girl Scout Award, Silver Award. The Silver Award is the highest award a Girl Scout cadet can get. To earn it, you have to find an issue in your community that you care about, research it, and then think of a solution, and then work with your community to bring it to life. We have chosen the gift of reading. Because we believe that reading and access to books is so important, we have decided to build a free little library. The Free Little Library is a book exchange program that allows access to free books 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These books can be for adults or children. We think it is important for children to have access to books even when they are not in school. There are more than 150,000 registered Free Little Libraries in the world, and we would like to build one here in Ashwaubenon.
Free little libraries are usually about the size of a kitchen cupboard and sit on top of a post. Ours will be made out of white composite material with a cedar shaker roof and matching cedar post. We will also decorate the Free Little Library with a little bit of color. We would like to place it in the area near the community center in Klipstine Park so it is close to a school, the park, and the assisted living center across the street. We are working with Mr. Melberg to find the best spot. Today we are asking for the board's approval to move forward with our project.
Thank you, ladies. Stay there for a second. So what was submitted, you see a picture of a couple examples of free little libraries. It obviously would be on like a 4x4 post at a height that was appropriate for kids to reach. It is on or near the pathway that goes to and from Parkview Middle School. A lot of kids use that pathway because their parents pick them up in the parking lot. It's also, very close to the community center, so there's different kids programs and things like that that are happening there. We looked at a couple different spots on your map. You're going to see 2 X's. I need to eliminate the X that's on the upper X, I should say, only because after I made the map and after it was submitted, I wound up talking with our Public Works Director, who reminded me about our snow plowing operations, that they have some fairly large snow plows going through there. And because of that, we don't want the snow plow to clip that particular free little library, nor do we want the snow that's being pushed to knock that little library over. So really the spot that we're looking at is along the sidewalk, which would be the lower spot, which is the X. Now there's probably going to be some buried electrical lines there. The village would be calling in some digger locates, and if we need to, we'll either hand dig it so the girls don't have to do that, or we'll pothole it, basically, to make sure it's safe. And then once the hole is there, then we'll turn it over to the troop, and the girls can, if approved, the girls would be able to do the footing then and put the wood down, the 4x4 for the base. So that being said, I will ask if the park board has any questions for the ladies up here about how they're going to make it or anything regarding the free little library. Who's, a good question maybe, which I'll jump out, is who's going to make sure that the free little library is stocked with books and replace the books as people use them and take them. That might be appropriate if someone wants to ask that.
Yes, it's Hannah, Peyton, and Ellie. Is that your name, honey? Ellie, I'm sorry. That's a great question. I have a little library at my house, so I'm really excited that you guys are going to put one in Klipstine. But that's a good question. Who's going to make sure the books are coming in and out and they're restocking if you need to? How are you going to handle that?
The 3 of us will, and we'll take turns making sure that there's plenty of books available.
And then once we leave and we are no longer part of Girl Scouts, we will pass it. I have a younger sister who's in Girl Scouts, and we'll pass it down to their troop. And part of Girl Scouts is like passing stuff on, so we'll hope that the tradition will keep passing on and kids will keep taking care of it.
And No, that was going to be my question was, in the future, when the paint starts to fade, will the three of you be owning this, or it sounds like you have a succession plan in place to pass it down to your troop, which is awesome, because eventually the paint fades, it needs a little pick-me-up, and I'm glad you planned for that. Thank you.
Where are the initial set of books going to come from?
Well, I can
Oh.
answer that partially, because a while back, my wife was looking for some place to get rid of some books. You know, we had 3 daughters also, and they're a little bit past the little book reading age, and we're trying to downsize somewhat in our home, so she's looking for some place to deposit some books, and she was going to look at that little library that is in Sherwood Park, I think, but it was already full, so I'm sure she'll be glad to find another spot to deposit some of them.
Okay.
Okay, so after we are finished building the library, we will have an event for younger Girl Scouts about reading, and the admission to get into the event will be 1 or 2 books that will help keep the library stocked.
Oh,
Good idea.
Yes, girls.
Are you going to be registering your library with the free little library site?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a good idea. I have mine registered there, and you can go out and it puts it on a map, shows where it is, so anybody that's interested can pull up that map and they can see where your library is. And I use that a lot when I travel. I pull them up and I find where they are, and then I can go exchange my book or get a new book.
I know Rex offered to dig the post hole for the post. Are you going to accept that offer, or do you three think you can handle that yourself? Let Rex do it?
That might be a dad problem.
the dads are like, nope, you take that now.
Is there any in the vicinity of Klipstine already?
What's that?
Are there any free little libraries in the vicinity of Klipstine already? Near the middle school or anything like that?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I mean, we have them at a number of our parks. Pocket Park up on Cormier has one, Smith has one, Fort Howard has one, Sand Acres has one. That was also done by a Girl Scout troop. But I
None at
do not
Klipstine,
believe
huh?
around Klipstine that there is one.
I
So
don't think there is.
with all the kids that are going up and down that path every day, that
It's a great addition.
this one might
Yeah.
be
Great
a
idea,
nice,
ladies.
real
I
nice
like it.
addition, yep.
So who's going to build this? You girls?
Nice.
Okay.
I like to use my circle saw too, in the drill.
So I,
Considered too was having the assisted living across the street when they go to Klipstine Park for the
Music.
park in the summertime. They want to reflect that.
Yeah.
So I think when we met with Miss Valerie a couple of weeks ago, it was you guys were going to help build it with assistance from your parents, I think? Was that kind of the plan? Okay.
You know, the other population that will probably use it is the senior facilities right down the road, because they'll, heading down to Oneida Street. So you probably want to think about having a few adult books in there too, so.
I would like to commend you 3 young ladies on a very well-planned, organized, and thorough presentation. You did an excellent job.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as proposed.
Second that.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the project.
Yeah.
All right. 8D, consider, discuss, act on comprehensive outdoor recreation plan update due in 2024. Rex?
Didn't we just get done with this like last year?
Was it last year, last week?
Actually, it was like 4 years ago. But it needs to be updated every year, the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that that is a project that's going to be occurring in 2024. We will be putting, I mean, it'll be very similar survey-wise to what we've done in the past. We'll get it up on the village website. We'll probably send a copy of the survey out to the different participants that's registered for all, you know, all of our cavalcade of classes, you know, both youth classes as well as adult classes. So we'll shoot it out to everybody, and hopefully we'll get a decent amount of comments back. Basically what we ask is, you know, what programs and in terms of programs and facilities, what do you see or what would you like to see that we might not be offering? And what that does, it kind of sets our goals for the next 5 years in terms of, well, what do we need to do more youth programming, or is there a trend that we're not catching? You know, are people happy with the senior programming that's going on? Are they happy with the park facilities? Do they want more basketball courts? Do they want more pickleball courts? Do they want to see more trails being built? Are they happy with what we've got, basically? That's what we're asking for. From that survey and from a series of community meetings, which we typically have at our parks during the summer, we try and take team with our neighborhood special events, as well as having them at a couple parks in areas that don't have those neighborhood special events. But we meet underneath the park shelter, and if any nearby residents want to touch base with staff, we're usually there for at least an hour and taking comments and feedback. We'll combine all those comments and all that feedback. We'll be bringing it back to you, the park board, in which case then you'll take a look at everything, and at least for the facility project aspect of it, we'll make a new 10-year plan, which is also what you have attached in your agenda packets right now. And you can see it's kind of hard to see because they're on their sideways, so without tilting your head too much to read them. You've seen them before. It basically talks about all the projects that we've had in the last 5 years. We put them out, you know, we try and divide them up, which you see what's been done, what's been started, and what is still out there, basically. So when we make the new one up, I will be taking all the stuff that's been completed, I'll be pulling it off of this chart and adding in the new projects as everyone sees fit, you know, to put on there. That being said, you know, that'll take a little bit of time throughout the course of the year. We'll pick away at it. But as park board members, obviously we value your feedback. There's a reason you're a park board member. You're a supporter of the park system. My task to everyone here, I guess, is to talk with some of your neighbors, talk with some of your acquaintances, friends that live in Ashwaubenon, find out what they think. Is there anything we don't have that they would like to see? Or would they like to see a bigger emphasis on any particular type of facility that we have within our park system? And any of that can go on to the chart. But it takes some talking, and I kind of rely on everyone to hopefully do due diligence and get the word out about this. And if someone doesn't have an answer for you, that you may ask when you come across them, please direct them. We'll probably have the survey up by spring, and we'll leave it up for a good part of the year and just continue to collect them. You know, have them fill that survey out, or just relay those comments back to me at one of the park board meetings in 2024.
Now, Rex, I think the last time we did that, that survey go out on the Facebook, Ashwaubenon Facebook site?
Yep, it did.
So Rex, this is an update to the CORP. It's not a rewrite of the whole thing. We're just updating it.
Well, it's good to be determined. This specifically will talk about the projects. So I've talked with administration about updating some parts of the CORP. There's different zones, and you know, we're looking at obviously a new park, you know, across the street on a piece of property that we have, and so there's a few things that I don't feel comfortable doing on my own, that I think I would need, more of a professional landscape architect person to do some different diagrams and things like that, about different park needs. We're talking about, obviously doing something down in the Highland Ridge area for the new developments that are happening down there as well. What is the scope? What is the zone? What size park is appropriate based on the number of homes? All that stuff is part of a CORP plan. And like I said, this is the easy part. We can certainly handle this. We've handled it. This is what, the third or fourth go around for me on redoing the CORP plan in-house, which has saved us money because the other stuff really hasn't changed. I mean, I've changed a few numbers and statistics based on, different surveys that the federal government did, but really we've done it mostly in-house, and we'll continue to do this part in-house. But in terms of some of the other survey work and radii of where parks need to be placed, we're looking at contracting a little bit of that to supplement, the CORP plan in '24. What a CORP plan is for, I should say this too, like what's a CORP plan for anyone who may be listening out there? Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan just kind of sets the goals and some of the future needs of your community based on that community feedback. And it goes to the Wisconsin DNR office, and if you're applying for different grants through the DNR, if the project is listed in the CORP plan, then you're able to apply for DNR grants. For instance, the Ashwaubomay River Trail that's being built, we got a $350,000 grant this year from the DNR. We would not have been able to get that $350,000 grant if we didn't do the CORP. We also got a $50,000 grant from the Recreational Trails Act, again administered through the DNR just a couple of years ago to build help build the Sand Acres Drive Trail. And I believe we also were able to use DNR grants for both the Packerland Trail and the Ashwaubomay River Trail from the marina to Bay Harbor Condominium. So all of those were in the CORP plan, all these different trail sections and segments. And because of that, we were eligible to apply for those grants. And we got some nice funding for it. So it's important not only to apply for grants, but as the village goes through its capital project budget every year, during budget time, like right now, one of the things we look at is the CORP plan and what projects are coming up and what do we have the ability to look at for funding in '24.
I don't think I knew I knew it was a lot to do with budgeting. I don't think I knew you had to have that to apply for grants.
Through the DNR, you do.
I don't think it,
Yep.
wow. That's,
Yep.
okay. All right, anything else? Any other questions? All right, if not, we'll move on. 8C, Ashwaubomay Lake Report.
Okay, and Melody is back from a very hectic high school swim meet this evening.
I'll be leaving right after this to head back, so don't think that I'm running out on you, but, we have an amazing facility there, we really do, with amazing technology that doesn't always do what it's supposed to do, so.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good to hear.
It's beautiful and wonderful when it works. But the reason I'm here, so the annual lake report. So just to kind of go over how this season went for 2023 summer. I present this report to you guys. You might have had a chance to look at it. I just try and lay it out so you guys can see all the numbers. Just a couple key points on how this summer went. I was really excited to kind of start the summer as a supervisor and with the set of lifeguards we had, I only had to hire 2 lifeguards this summer out of my 20 that start at the lake. So I was coming in with a really great senior staff, which as a supervisor, they know what they're supposed to do, and they have confidence in being there because the lake is just kind of that different beast. It's not like a pool or anything like that that has its own little quirks and things. And I came in with a really strong staff that knows the lake and knows me as a supervisor. And so I was excited this summer, and it was a great summer. The staff was amazing there. They did a really nice job running things. We had a new addition this summer as far as our new deck that we had to have rebuilt. That finished up like kind of late this spring, so.
That's the upper deck, the second story deck.
The second story deck on the chalet that had needed to get rebuilt. It was a little bit different design, a little bit bigger than we had had in the past, which is, that deck is crucial to our operation as far as we can step out, the supervisors and lifeguards can step out and see the entire lake from that deck. So it is an absolute must for us out there. And so the new addition and that new deck was really nice for us to have. So overall, the summer, like I said, went really well. Staff was there. I didn't struggle like most of our municipalities in the area with staff. They did well with their training and things like that. We paired with Rex and the food truck rallies, and so we had 3 food truck rallies that we paired with and did special events. We had a luau, and we had a end of the summer splish splash bash and a Pirates Day. So all of those were really fun at the lake this summer, as well as the blast at the end of the year. The lake is free for that admission, for free admission for that day. We did increase the price this year by 50 cents. So that definitely helped with some of these numbers. And kind of with raising the lifeguard rates, that helps me keep my staff, and that was much appreciated by them. And I think that plays a huge part in me not losing my staff, is that raise that the board approved. But then to kind of combat that, we did raise by 50 cents the admission rate this year. So the kind of numbers are kind of in front of you. If you have any questions, let me know. Rex and I kind of go over things before the season starts, as far as on the last page, the cafe and all the items that we offer there. Rex and I go through that every year before the start of the year to kind of make sure that we're selling things that, you know, are selling, and get rid of the things that aren't, and any new changes that we can have. So that stays pretty current. I try and add a couple new things, but our big sellers are always our big sellers. The pretzel bites and things like that tend to be our big sellers in the cafe. Otherwise, yeah,
So our attendance was up over 1,200 people, correct?
From last year, correct.
From
So
last year.
attendance did go up from last year, and it kind of grew from that. We had that 2020 blank year there, but it's continued to go up through the years, so that's good. We do typically, if you look on the next, or the second page with admissions, you can kind of see how those non-residents are a huge part of our attendance, and so they do tend to sometimes make up the bulk of that, which is nice, because those non-residents do pay that $1 extra, and the residents get the discount of that $1. Our passes were also up this year, and concession sales as well, so all of that was good. We did have 2 less rentals this year than we've had in past, but those usually stay pretty steady. I keep in the 20s is pretty much the only weekends I have. There's 10 weeks out of the year, so that's 2 weekend days. So I'm pretty much booking, you know, at least 2 rentals a week, which is extra hours for those staff to grab as well.
What are the library passes? They're 614. Is it a program with the
So
kids, the reading program?
Yeah, so I do, same with like the bike to school passes or the walk to school passes. I provide those to, obviously, the Ashwaubenon schools. If the kids bike to school or walk to school, I give them a pass for that. If it's in the wintertime, we do a pass to the pool, but during the summertime, and then I work with the library to do that earning program. If they read so many books, then they earn a free pass to the lake.
And that's countywide. It's the county library
Oh, is it?
system
Okay.
that we work with.
Correct. Nice.
Mel-
A lot that came in. Yeah.
Melody, I want to commend you on doing a good job throughout the year, running the aquatics program and the lake and so forth. I have one question, and looking at the past 3 years as far as expenditures and revenues, collectively in the last 3 years, we've run a total deficit of nearly $80,000. And I don't know if I'm directing this to you, Melody, or maybe to Rex. Do we need to look at generating a little more revenue?
I guess I would love to do that. That is definitely on towards the top of my list. I mean, obviously, safety is the number one thing there, but yes, there's only so many ways that I can at the lake, which would be, we have the cafe that generates revenue through concessions, admissions, and then rental rates are the only real ways to change any funds coming in for that place. So I'm always up for any ideas or suggestions. I know Rex and I have lots of conversations about this and things that we can do. That water bill just gets me. So if you know somebody in the water department, then
It's the water, to fill up the lake is about $9,000. And then for the ongoing water flow, because there's always fresh water flowing into the lake from an import on the north end. And then there's a standpipe on the south end that flows out of, to level things out. But throughout the year, the inflow, I believe, is what, Mel? Like $20,000?
yeah, it's around $20,000
And
to
then,
keep
and then
it filled.
the initial fill-up is 9,000. So it's by far, the water is the second biggest expense, the first biggest expense behind staffing for the lake itself.
It does fluctuate too.
What's that?
The water fluctuates. It really depends on the type of summer you have. We have to taper it down, and if we're getting a lot of, like, if we have a really hot summer, that water evaporates, so we have to put more in, or it's a really hot summer, so my algae levels bloom, so I need more fresh water to, so but it's one of the biggest expenses.
The water department gives us a little more, I don't want to say specialized, maybe is the word for it, a water meter that can monitor the flow rate a little bit better than the average run-of-the-mill meter.
Yeah, and I understand it's probably a tricky balance between avenues of trying to raise revenue when you're looking at competitiveness of surrounding areas, trying to maintain attendance and so forth. And I'm just wondering if maybe the village as a whole, the village board is maybe we're moving into a trend where we have to start eating, the cost from other situations rather than revenue just generated by the Ashwaubomay Lake.
We've talked about this in some of the administrative budget sessions, and the administration is, I guess, happy where we're at. They don't want us to raise the rates any further, only because of the affordability. Because it's not, I mean, we've got some fun stuff. It's a lake, you've got the high dive, you've got a drop slide, and you've got some water, but it's not like a water park per se. So competitive wise, rate wise, we're right, we're not the highest. I think the pier might be the highest because they have a brand new water park, and we're on tap with everybody else. So it's kind of a competitive market out there. Especially with the Howard Quarry, being free per se to residents, but sometimes non-residents can use it. So we can raise it, but it might upset the apple cart where people then start to go elsewhere, and then we're actually going to be losing money. So it's a fine balance. One of the things that Mel and I talked about this year, and we're going to try for 1 year. Typically, we have 4 people working in the admission concession area. Typically 2 in admissions and 2 in concessions, and they float back and forth depending upon what area is busy. We're going to go to 3. We're going to try 3 people. It'll be a supervisor, and the supervisor will slide back and forth between concessions and admissions depending on how it is. Now, what's that going to save? That'll probably save a couple $1,000s. It's not going to make up a a deficit of what we run. Basically, we're running the lake at a deficit, and even if we raise the rates $1 or $2, we probably still would, a full $1, we probably
So does
still
that offset with the pool then? Is that like the whole aquatics department off the,
This is just the lake.
right, but then, so, like, how is this being paid for? When
How
you
is
have
what?
such a deficit like that, like,
It
is the
comes-
village is eating the cost?
The village
Okay.
is supplementing the cost, no different than
Okay.
supplementing the cost for our summer park program.
Fair, I just didn't know if the pool made up the money to help offset some
No,
of that
no,
expense.
no, the pool, we're actually, and Mel can talk about that too, we'll be doing the pool report probably after the holidays, but rec swim numbers are up very much this year, which are great.
Mm-hmm.
And then certainly the swim lesson program pays for itself and then covers other costs.
So that's kind of what I'm
Yeah,
curious, is
so the
if, like,
pool does a better cost
absorb
recovery
this
rate
a little bit.
than the lake does, only because you can charge for those, you've got the swim
Lessons.
lesson aspect at the pool, which helps make up the deficit for some of the other rec swim and other types of programs.
well, and the pool's year-round versus
Right.
just the 10 weeks or whatever for the summer.
I can say that I don't know of a pool in the state of Wisconsin that recovers their money.
Okay,
In general,
they're
I think there's
expensive.
only a couple in the country that do, like
Yeah.
the Indianapolis Swim Center. I believe they do because they host national competitions and they're charging tens and hundreds of thousands
So
of
we're
dollars.
bringing Olympic trials to Ashwaubenon, is that what, is
Yeah,
that what I
well,
heard you say?
with-
I feel like that's what Rex said.
we're getting
We
regional.
are hosting bigger meets,
We're
and so I'll
definitely
talk about
hosting
that.
bigger
Yeah,
meets.
we are hosting state meets now, so I'm working on it. But baby steps.
I gotta bring comedic relief here, guys, come on.
But Dean, it's a very valid question, and I guess at what, do we have a threshold of where we stop with the deficit? Right now, what was it, about 30,000, I think?
33,
33?
which is less than last year, like by a grand or so, so.
So
Maybe
we're
we'll just
we're
trend
holding
that
fairly steady on that, and all we can do is try and monitor it and cut expenses without cutting the safety. And as long as the village is doing well as a whole, then there does not seem to be an issue with us maintaining that the way it is.
Well, I thank you, Melanie and Rex. It was a question worth asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it looks like the increase of the 50 cents was enough to cover the increase to the lifeguards, which, those, as you said, safety is number one. We don't want to have incidents, and, you can just hope that you sell more concessions, but to raise $1, maybe this year we would have made money, but eventually,
Yeah.
if you
So-
keep raising, but
So based on this year's attendance, with quick math in the head, for anyone who may be listening, that 50-cent increase, we had 25,000 people come through the gates. Now granted, not all of them are paying, but that's probably around an $11,000 or $12,000 revenue increase based on that 50-cent increase per person. So that certainly helps. And, at some point, if that deficit starts to get a little larger, that's when we'll have to take a look at raising the rates one more time.
We also raised the rental rates this past year to another $10. We had done, about 2 years ago, we raised it $35 in one season, and now we've raised it an additional $10 for this year, so, this past year, I should say. So that one will, and that brings in that kind of revenue, that helps too, so.
And it didn't affect demand at all.
It does not affect demand. Those rentals are important. So for about a little over $200, you can rent the lake, so that's
On what days?
any days except Wednesdays, because we're open late on Wednesdays. So, or food truck rally days, where we're already open late. It's just
Or
that
there's
6
events
to
going
8
on.
time frame.
Got it.
We can't do late night rentals because the lake isn't lit, like an indoor pool would be. So it's based off of when the sun starts to set. That's our ending time. So we keep it from 6 until 8.
I think the lake is just a unique facility, so it's great. And I think people come there that maybe don't want to be in a chlorinated pool because there's no chlorine in the lake. And I'd hate to see us raise the rates so families can't afford to be there. And, you know, we're a municipal Parks and Recreation Department. We're not here to make big bucks
Right.
and charge
Break
people a ton to come to the facilities and partake. We just want them to partake and have fun. So you're going to lose money on different events. You know, maybe the youth programs are supplemented by the adults because they pay a little more and you have more revenue from that. So overall, I would assume you need to try to get your revenue as close as you can, but some programs just supplement other ones, so.
So you brought up a good point, Tracy. I know we're winding down with the meeting, but Mel, do you want to talk a little bit? The lake is not, a couple of things. Number one, you wouldn't believe the number of people who think that we get our water to fill the lake right from the Fox River. We do not. The lake is drained at the end of every season, and then it's filled.
Question, do you have, like, what, can you not drain it and like subsidize the water the next season, or why does it have to be drained?
The water would.
Because then we can ice skate too.
Yeah, you could do that. The water.
And by we, I mean everyone else.
The water
but
would be
me,
kind of
but-
gross because there's no water flow. Right
Movement.
during the season, we have aerators to keep the water moving,
Okay.
water in, water out. If we were to keep the water in it, the only way that we could keep that water from not getting totally full of algae and just nasty
Icky, yeah.
is to keep that water flowing, and it's
The expense is more than it's worth.
that's more expensive than draining
Filling
it
it,
and filling
okay.
it every year.
Got it. I drove
So-
by the other day and I'm like, I wonder.
Yeah, yeah. So that being said, again, there's no chlorine system. It's fresh water. We take fire hose, hook it up to the fire hydrant. It's the same water that comes out of your drinking taps. That's what's used to fill the water. It takes a full week to fill the lake. But Mel, why don't you just quick explain a little bit about how we keep the bacteria down in the lake since we don't use chlorine or have a filtering system?
So we work with a company called Aquatic Biologists, and we have kind of a special concoction of natural bacterias and enzymes that we put into the lake to kind of keep those algae levels down. Essentially, this bacteria kind of eats that all up. Like Rex said, we have aerators. We have, I think, 9 aerators strategically kind of set throughout the lake to kind of keep that water circulating and not that stagnant water. And then we also test our water. So, a few years back, the DNR changed their rules on testing and actually became less stringent on some of the testing. Places didn't have to test. We still choose to test. I test 3 different areas, the tiny tots, the middle, and the deep water every single week, and we send that to the health department to make sure that our numbers are at safe swimming levels. Should they come back, I can monitor them. If they start to get a little higher, I know with working with aquatic biologists what I need to add to kind of bring those numbers down. So, yep, I work with them.
What would cause bacteria rates to rise?
So our friendly little seagulls and geese are they're not our friends out at the lake. We'd rather they not be out there. Unfortunately, when the geese are all on the beach, they leave little treats behind, and when it rains, that's what happens. So I'm constantly watching the weather and the rain patterns and all of that kind of stuff, and we've worked very diligently. I've become quite the geese whisperer, and knowing that they don't like owls, they don't like, maybe if you went out there, you'll see the owl. We've had the coyotes, yes, we do. I bought a big flag a kite that's like a hawk. I don't know if you've seen that out there. They don't like birds of prey, so we try and keep those off the beach as much as possible because, yes, they are the problem children out there when it comes to my water quality, so.
And it's no different, from Shawano Lake that you swim in to Lake Michigan. Any time there's a rain event on any beach area in the state of Wisconsin that everyone swims in, Ashwaubomay Lake is no different. Typically then, because of that rain event, the bacteria rate goes a little bit higher. And so Mel automatically knows, it rained last night, we're going to need to be adding more enzyme packets today to knock that down so it's safe to go in. So it's no different than any other natural lake in the state of Wisconsin. When you see beach warnings over at Lake Michigan or somewhere like that, this is the reason why. It's the same thing. Typically, it's right after a rain that those counts go high.
Runoff.
We at least have the ability where it's a contained lake where we can knock that back down fairly quickly. Other questions for Mel or program operations? Oh, I want to say, like everything else that we order, it's taking much longer, but we do have our second sunshade ordered as part of the 23 budget. We're trying a different type. It's a cantilevered. So instead of having a post on each corner, like a big giant rectangle, a cantilevered is two double posts that are set back more, and there's more of an overhang. So that'll make it easier for our maintenance staff when they're dragging the lake. They won't have to be going around the poles as much. There basically will be less of an obstruction for people walking back and forth, or when we're dragging or trying to maintain the sand around there. But that's on order. We're hoping still to get that in 23. If not, we'll get it in before the start of the 24 swim season. But that is on order right now, and it's part of the budget which was approved for this year.
How's the handicap ramp going? Does it get used a lot, the one that goes out to the lake?
The Moby mat, yes,
Yes.
that's still great. It's utilized absolutely every day, and it's definitely a staple out there. I actually am, Rex and I have talked about getting some extensions. We currently have the Moby mat, that's the Alliance donation gave us the money to do that. That goes from the entrance of the chalet out straight into the water, and then there are two kind of jut-offs that they could, anyone with a wheelchair or a mobility issue could use. I would like to look at even extending those a little bit just because it is utilized a lot. So yes, we like it very much out there.
Would you say that having the Moby bat has increased our attendance for people that may have mobility challenges at all?
Absolutely, especially once they come once, then they come again, because it wasn't difficult the first time. They were able to maneuver into the water or where their families are sitting. And so I see the same ones as well as new ones, but more times than I have seen before. It's become a safe spot that they can come, where they know they can be with their families and spend time. So yes, we also redid the sidewalk right outside the chalet, which is just really helped in that, because that concrete really needed to get redone as well. So we did that last year as well. So we're making improvements out there.
So I just had a couple thoughts quick. I'm not huge on the social media or any of that, but, and maybe you do this already, which is why I'm stumbling through this, but maybe some, like, did you knows about the lake not being chlorinated and things like that, and just the process that you take to make sure it's safe and how it's different from a chlorinated pool, or just to really get that knowledge out there. And maybe you do that already, but I just wonder if that would help the layperson. I didn't know if it was chlorinated. Doesn't matter to me, because I probably won't swim in the Fox, but I've swam in Shawano, so I could pretty much swim anywhere. And no offense to anybody from Shawano, but I was born there, so, I could swim anywhere. But just if that's something that you mentioned it, so it didn't even dawn on me. Like, I wouldn't have even thought about, well, what kind of water is it? But for someone who can't be in chlorinated water, or it has a reaction, my wife has different allergies to different things, so I don't think about it because I don't. But, that might be something as the pool is getting closer, the Moby mat, just pump that out there so it spreads out. Hey, we have this, it's really cool. And then, I think of a gentleman a while back, we were up in Crivets, and one of the parks on Caldron Falls has a mobile mat. Now, that one's not as nice as the one that we have, because it's just a county park that, if the people that are there help maintain it, they're fine, but it's kind of run its course as a mobile mat. But just to have that as a feature, because it's so much different than using the lifts at the pools and things like that. Like, I watched this guy wheel as far as he could go. His family had to get him back closer. He was able to put himself in the water. It was really cool to watch. And it's just a unique thing that, to pump that out there, with some social media
Yeah, I work with Haley, and we did do a 5 things about the lake, but we did it more towards, so this is great, and I will talk to you about it more of like, did you know it costs this much to get in the lake, and you can buy food there, but I
Yeah.
can definitely work with her to switch it as little known
This
facts.
is what sets us
of the
apart
lake.
from
Right.
there, from the concrete pool.
right.
or-
And we did a lot of publicity when we got the Moby mat, so even circling back of like, hey, like 2 years ago, here's this picture, and then, your before and afters and stuff like that, that are pretty popular, and this or that's, and some of that stuff.
Yeah, and getting more recognition out to the Lions Club again,
Yeah.
saying, they
you
donated
go.
only mats.
And then maybe
and
they'll
well-used,
extend it for you.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm going to drop one bit of information on you guys before we end this topic that maybe you don't know. Did you know that before the cafe was built, the concession stand was actually a railroad car, and you bought concessions out of the railroad car, and it's supposed to look like a circus train.
Because that's why the elephant's out front, right?
The guy who ran it was known as
Hippo, sorry.
Mr. Caboose. His name was Bill, and he did it for years. He wore train man suspenders, and it was made to look like a circus train, which is why the drinking fountain next to, which people always go, why do you have an elephant or a hippo there that you stick your head in the hippo to get your drink of water if you know that fountain that's right there? It's all part of that theme when the lake first opened in 1974. We actually have a lion's head, the same thing. It needs to be redone. It needs to have a new fiberglass coating put on it. But we also have, in case anything would catastrophic would happen to the hippo that's currently there, we have the lion's head in storage. Same type of thing. We just need to have it refiberglassed, and we would use the lion's head then instead of.
Is it a bubbler? I know you said drinking fountain,
It's a
but in
bubbler,
Wisconsin, we
bubbler,
call it a
bubbler,
bubbler. The lion is a bubbler as well, though?
It is, yes.
Okay.
You know what else you need? A beach volleyball league.
Yes.
There's been talk of having, well, we've had people request like to have a beach volleyball tournament out there or something like that. We only have the one court, so that's kind of the issue. We have had log rolling out there, and I've had requests of possibly hosting a log rolling tournament, but it's hard when I only operate 3 months out of the year. I want to be able to provide, obviously our community with the time, so trying to line that up so we could maybe do it at the same time. I've been in the works of talking to a couple different people, but yeah, a beach volleyball tournament would.
I'm having flashbacks to Bradford Beach in Milwaukee. I don't know if I can handle it.
Well, we just don't have a sand beach here that's
Usable.
really, right? Like, you're pretty brave if you go to a piece of sand on the Fox River and swim. Like, awesome. But, it's just so unique that just to try and hit them a different way to say it. So, yeah, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions on Ashwaubomay Lake for Melody?
No, nice job.
Thanks, Mel. Good luck tonight.
I'm headed to the pool. I'll say your prayers. No, it's fine.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
All right, so E, Park and Rec Forestry Department reports.
Oh, we talked about aquatics. Mel just got done with the Pumpkin Palooza. Swim Club is holding, their annual meet on next weekend, actually, which will be a big one. Forestry, we've pretty much finished with the contract removals this year. I think they finished up they did some tree removals, park removals at Gillis Park as well as at Waterford Park. And those are, I believe, are the last, but not all of or Pioneer Park, excuse me, Gillis and Pioneer. Waterford is next year. But then Tim will be working on the bid specs for the next round of removals, which will be basically from Waterford Park southward for the tree removals.
Sorry to interrupt. The order forms for the residents, where do you find that?
Okay, I believe those are online. They can also be gotten at at the community center, at
Okay.
our apartment. Now, those aren't for trees that were removed because of EAB.
Right.
That's a whole separate program. This is like if you just want a tree because you don't have one, or maybe you had a maple tree that had a root girdling issue.
Or like I want to donate one, I don't want it because I don't want to do leaves, but someone else might want it, and here's this tree, or what?
We're gonna dig it up, or I don't understand what you're.
I don't know what the tree planting program.
Oh, it's for residents that, like you say, like they'll plant the tree and maintain it at
Oh.
the curbside for you.
Oh,
It's like within the
don't-
right of way in front of your house. So like if you
Okay,
if you
now
don't
it
have a
makes
tree,
sense.
but you want a tree,
did you see the light bulb?
you can fill out the form and
Got it.
we'll get a street tree in there for you.
Okay.
And they'll prune it.
I
And
wasn't sure where you were going with that.
I wasn't quite sure of the program, and I never heard of it, but I want to buy somebody else a tree if I can. But the village wants to buy me a tree. That's the program. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah. We're winterizing a lot of the facilities right now, blowing out irrigation lines. Ashwaubomay and Pioneer have already been blown out. I think we still have to do the sports complex yet. I know the guys were out today. They're at Ashwaubomay when I drove through today, taking the lips off of all the ball diamonds there. And just, this is the time to clean things up and to get things ready for the spring, because once the spring hits, we don't have time to get things ready. We got to like quick open everything up, so all this work really is done in the fall. So everything's ready to go in the spring. This Thursday, depending on the weather, we should be putting in the new climber at the Pioneer Park Playground, the playground that's in the woods, not behind the school. Schools is the schools, and then our playground is the one that's kind of in the woods. So we have a nice new climber that is in storage right now that the guys are prepping to install. We already did the footings last week, and we should have a playground rep coming to kind of help us out on Thursday. Should take.
Is it
Part of
going
the
right
day.
where the old climber is, or
What's that?
is it going right where the old climber, the old Eagle's Nest thing is, or is it in a different location?
It'll be like from me to you away from where the old
Okay,
one
got
is.
it. So the old one isn't down yet?
Old one is out,
Is it?
but we don't want to dig that out because it's so close to some of the trees.
Okay.
If we put a new one there, we have to dig down deeper, and it would affect some of the root systems
Okay.
on the trees, so we kind of moved it in a little bit more,
Got
so
it. It's been a few months.
to a more
since I've been-
appropriate spot. The Ashwaubomay River Trail Bridge, still working on a few punch list items. The trail on the Alden Station side is supposed to be, I believe, paved it's supposed to be next week. So the window is closing, but we're supposed to get that paved next week.
The lighting on that bridge from the river is phenomenal. We went out on the river on the boat.
Yeah, we're
It
not,
is
that's
beautiful.
just like, I think it's just pre-programmed right now for like the color purple or blue or something like that, but
I don't care
that
whatever
has
color it is,
so-
it looks wonderful.
that
from
has
the
so
water.
many different color options. We'll be able to light it up. The programming is, I'll be honest, it's difficult. So what we're having the company do, who designed it, is they're just doing a little chip
Just
or
be an
zip
app on
zip
your phone,
drive where
Rex.
we'll stick it in, and they'll pre-program it each year for what, like 3 days before every holiday to make it that holiday's colors. And then they'll have the Packers, we'll give them the Packer schedule, and they'll send us a new chip. And, like on game days or the night before game day or the night of, it'll be green and gold. So we're going to try and do some different color combos like that.
It's not an app on your phone.
No, I wish, wouldn't that be nice?
That's what it is in my backyard, so I'm
Yeah,
super
no,
sorry your bridge isn't as cool.
unfortunately, it's not as easy as that. This is actually a new type of design
Yeah.
that there's not
It looks wonderful. so
many
good
out
job.
there. It's something different we wanted to try, so hopefully it'll work. And then we're finishing up our youth football season out at the sports complex on Saturday mornings. We got a lot of senior programs going on. Everything's well attended. The communities, and we had over 60 people for Pancakes and Politics. That's double over what we've had in the past. So I mean, these are just little, bits and pieces, but in general, that's how it is across the board. Numbers are are very good for a lot of the, especially the older adult programming that we've got going on, so. Questions on anything happening in our department, program-wise or maintenance-wise?
Thank you for touching up the tree spots with, working with Yardworks. I think that was Yardworks, right? That was, some of them were less than desirable to look at, I think.
Yeah.
So I appreciate coming back through and touching those up.
Yep, we realized that there needed to be a little more work done, so.
Yeah, some of them were more weeds than grass and.
Oh,
Yep.
the lack of rain this summer
Yeah.
was horrible.
Yeah, right, and that was part of it.
Yeah.
I scratched mine up a little bit and put some grass seed down, but like if I didn't water it every day, it just
It
burned
was
out.
horrible,
Weeds.
yeah.
I'll pass it on to Tim Donovan. Tim's the one that
Yeah,
recognized that right away, like, this isn't going how we had hoped, and
yeah,
he did some additional contracting to get another company out there, Yardworks, and do some of that stuff.
some yards, you didn't notice it as much. Some yards, it was like, whoops.
Yeah.
So-
Well, a lot of it too is how well a homeowner
Yeah.
may or may not have taken care of it.
Yeah, so I appreciate coming back through, and I think we may have hit perfect timing on that too, so.
Good. Anything else?
The pancakes and politics was very good, but there was a gentleman that snuck in. He didn't register and he snuck in and I just couldn't believe it, Donovan.
Really?
The baby, I was gonna say your number might be off by one.
Yeah.
I didn't eat.
I'm teasing you.
Guilty. 61 for the record.
61, yeah.
We do pad the numbers a little.
Yeah.
Meaning we always expect there's a few people that are
Yeah.
going to show up without
I'm just
registering.
gonna sneak in, right? Yeah.
Are everybody good with Park Board
Yeah.
report?
Move to adjourn then, or what?
No, items for next, I think,
Oh, super shoot.
items for next agenda, which I'd imagine we're not going to worry about right now with the budget, unless somebody wants. No, okay. All right, move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
This conference is no longer being recorded.